with Yomi 1 week at a time, Masechet Sotah. Thank you all. This is our fourth lesson. We are going to be reviewing Daf 21 through 28. It's not our normal day, so I know it's a little hectic on a Friday, but thank you all for participating. We are going to do through Wednesday. We're recording on a Friday, and then next week we'll do from Thursday to Tuesday. So we'll get the week, on either end. Okay, so let's start on Daf 21. We were talking about the fact that the woman has the ability to, if she has merit, so then her punishment can be delayed, right? This is root. So the Gemara asks, what type of merit of what says that as we know, therefore, the mitzvah and into a discussion about and the Gemara talks about the fact of so if you look at a smaller thing or much bigger, others, again, this I as opposed to that's the vote, so that helps in the daytime. It's much better, and therefore Torah. The Tamara says maybe more important. Could have that doing both protect you certain, all the mitzvot, so that you will not transgress. But Torah, if you learn Torah, that always, or maybe sinning, whereas and learn Torah will protect. So that discussion seems to. So 1 second. I hope you can hear me. Okay, so that is the merit is her doing mitzvot, commandments. The Gemara goes back and says, no, the merit is actually the woman learning Torah, and it is important for her to learn Torah, and so that's one option. And the Gemara says, no, she facilitates her sons and her husband learning Torah. And I think as a woman who learns Torah, this is, challenging, right? But here it's saying that she gets the reward for allowing or for helping her husband and her children to learn Torah. It is important to that later halachic authorities have reinterpreted this Gemara, right? Again, the conclusion of the Gemara that woman is not learning Torah, rather she's either facilitating it or she's doing mitzvot. Later authorities have said that nowadays, if women are, getting high school educations, college educations, women are in the professional field, then obviously it is important for women to also be learning Torah. So just so you shouldn't, stop learning Daf Yomi just because of this Gemara. Anyway, so it is important to understand. Okay, then then the Gemara says, if you remember last week, we learned that the Mishnah says, no, 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 don't teach your daughter Torah. It's as if you are teaching tiflut. So the question is, what is tiflut? One interpretation is intimacy, meaning she will become promiscuous if she learns Torah, because she will learn all these loopholes. Or there is another way of understanding this, which is not promiscuity, rather tafel, or frivolous, meaning if you teach your daughter Torah, she won't really understand what is going on. Here the listed a group of deceptive people, and how these are, basically ruin the world. So who are these deceptive people? One is a foolish, pious person, right? A chassid shoteh. What does that mean? That he basically, the Gemara gives an example. A man sees a woman drown. Oh, I can't believe her because it's not proper. I can't look at women, right? So that is a terrible thing, and obviously the man has an imperative to save the women. Person is arum, which means here from the not nakedness arum, but like arum as in cunning. So he is cunningly evil. What is that? Right. Someone gives a poor person right, so doesn't give you don't give the person someone who is lenient for themselves but stringent for others. This person who does the Daf 2 is on this idea that to problems in Jewish law. Who is an Am Haaretz? If you remember, is I guess one could say someone who is ignorant or someone who doesn't keep. So Tamara says, oh, it must be somebody who or doesn't see or learn, or and it's someone who doesn't serve a rabbi, or they learn Mishnah without learning. And again, also will ruin the world in terms of these are not people in their place. And this this is someone who I guess is falsely aesthetic, meaning that she. So the Gemara actually learn fear of sin from a maiden. What is this? This is a maiden who prays shouldn't entice by her beauty. We can also learn about getting reward from and here she basically walked the further shul to get a bigger reward. And these maidens and women, widows, were very great, but there are others that are deceptive, and they seem to be some source, some sort of sorceresses, women who use some sort of magic. Um, then we had a minor whose this is some who um, basically, um, one second. Okay, this is someone who isn't capable of issuing a halachic ruling, right? So and, this seems to be the age of 40. Again, if you're under 40, you should not be ruling. You're over, but younger and you're capable, so then that is okay. Here are lists 7 types of insincere ascetics, people who do milah, right, circumcision, people who humility, people who do mitzvot just for the reward or for fear of punishment. The Gemara says, wait a minute, but we know that even if you do mitzvot for the wrong reasons, we say that you'll eventually do it for the right reasons. So the Gemara says, you're right, remove those last 2 categories. Okay, now we have the Mishnah, the next Mishnah on Daf 20. Hold this. Remember, said that Rabbi Shimon says that even if the woman is meritorious, the punishment is not delayed, because if nothing happens, and if nothing happens to this woman, then people will see her and they'll say, oh, she must be guilty, but she had some sort of merit, and that's why nothing is happening to her, as opposed to seeing that really she is innocent. Okay, the Mishnah continues that Rebbe says actually that the merit does work. She doesn't have a child, and she slowly deteriorates over time, but eventually she does have the same death. If her, let's say her mincha, her offering, became impure before it entered the kli sharet, the sanctified vessel, so then it can be redeemed. If it was already sanctified, so then it needs to be burnt, not on the not on the altar, but burnt outside. Okay, I see a question. Why is merit accepted over someone who doesn't have merit? Here the idea is that if the woman has some sort of zchut, has some sort of merit, so then it will save her from the initial or maybe we can call it the final embarrassment at the end of the process, and it gives her kind of like bonus points so that she can die quietly in her house. So it's not about atonement or accepting or not accepting. It's about is she going to die right away on the spot, or does she get to go home and maybe die a quieter death? So I think that's the idea of this merit. Okay, since we discussed the korban, the sacrifice of the Sotah, so the Gemara says that there are other cases on the top of Daf 23. There are other cases where her mincha is burnt, when her sacrifice is not sacrificed on the altar, rather it's burnt elsewhere. Basically, anytime we end the ceremony, meaning if she says that she's guilty, So then we stop and we burn the sacrifice. If witnesses come in that she's guilty, or if she refuses to drink, or if her husband refuses to make her drink, if her husband had relations with her on the way, which we said was not allowed, or if her husband is a Kohen, or if she is a Kohenet married to Yisrael. In these two cases, her mincha can be eaten and it's not burnt. So it's important to understand that the mincha or offering, the grain offering of a priest, is burnt completely and not eaten. Everyone else is actually eaten at the end of the process. The Mishnah lists the differences between a Kohen and a Kohenet, meaning a male or a female Kohen. And we also have halachic differences between a man and a woman in general, and we saw some of this. Right, so the man tears his garment if he becomes a leper, a mitzorah, and he grows his hair where she doesn't. He can have his son be a nazir for him. He can betroth his daughter. Well, we've seen this before. This is a regular man betrothing a regular girl. He can sell his daughter. Now to the woman, what's unique about the woman? In general, regular women, remember we saw that she isn't stoned naked. Remember, the man is. Interestingly, we learned that this is actually for their benefit, right? If the less clothes they have, the quicker they die, meaning it's a more painless death. But if you remember, we learned that a woman would rather be covered and have it take a little bit longer than the opposite. Also, she isn't hanged. It's not I guess, modest for her. And if a man steals, he can be sold, but a woman cannot. So all of that was the Mishnah. Now let's get to the Gemara. So the Gemara tells us that the wives of Kohanim, of priests, who bring the mincha offering, those are burnt, right? They're burnt, and the remnants the remnants of the offering can be burnt for the sake of firewood, or they're sprinkled on the ashes. This is based on a verse, right? The verse teaches that the mincha of a kohen is burnt completely on the altar, and it is not eaten. A female kohen, a kohenet, can become what's called a chalelet or chalelah, meaning she is it's basically profaned, meaning there's something that someone did wrong. So to her children, the kohen can, right, again, if he does something wrong, the children are chalalim, but he isn't. So again, that's the difference between the men and the women. And the verse teaches that a kohen, a male, cannot become impure, but the female can if she's a kohenet. He eats sanctified meat, like kodshe kodshim, meat from a sacrifice. She cannot. And we see that all of these differences are based on verses in the Torah. With that, we conclude the third chapter of Masechet Sotah. Now we have the fourth chapter. One second. Okay. The Mishnah tells us that there are certain women who are not brought to the temple to drink. They're not considered a Sotah. Who are these women? A woman who is engaged, an arusa. Again, when I say engaged, I mean in the time of the Mishnah and the Gemara, not in our days. Our days, an engaged woman is just like an unmarried woman, but an arusa from the time of the Mishnah and the Gemara. and a woman who's waiting to do yibum. If you remember, she's called Shomeret Yavam. These two women do not drink the water, and they don't get their ketubah money. Meaning, if there was a warning, and then there were witnesses that said that she went into a motel room, so then they need to get divorced, or right, whatever that means. It's different for each one, but they need to separate from their husbands, and they do not get their ketubah money. Right? The Sotah ceremony is only for a married woman. A woman who is in a forbidden relationship, meaning she wasn't allowed to marry her husband. Right? So this is right, a priest who married a divorcee, or the high priest who married a widow, or if a man married a mamzeret, right, a woman who was illegitimate. All of these people do not drink. There is no, it's not, they cannot become a sotah, and they do not get their ketubah money if, when they get divorced. Daf 24 tells us the following women also don't drink. If she admits guilt, right? We said this before. If she admits that she really did have an affair, if witnesses come and say that she's guilty, if she refuses to drink, in all of those cases, she obviously does not drink. If the husband refuses to make her drink, or he slept with her on the way, then she gets her ketubah money and she doesn't drink, right? Because this is, right, let's say again, and I think we're always going to go back to this. The idea is that she is, let's say she is innocent, and she wants to prove that she's innocent, and now he just messed her up by not giving her the ability to drink. Therefore, she gets divorced and she gets her ketubah money. If the husband dies before she can drink, Beit Shammai says she gets her ketubah money and she doesn't drink because we assume her innocence. Beit Hillel say because she can't drink, she can't get her ketubah money. Meaning, again, I don't know if it's about assuming guilt or innocence, but according to Beit Hillel, the point was for her to go through this ceremony. Now that she cannot go through the ceremony, she does not get her ketubah money. Let's say he married her when she was pregnant from her first marriage, or she was nursing. If you remember, we discussed, I want to say in Yevamot, but maybe in Ketubah also, that she is not allowed to get married if she's pregnant or nursing. We're afraid that the husband will want her to get pregnant, exactly this case, and will treat her badly. She really needed to wait 24 months, but she didn't. So she doesn't drink. She cannot become a sotah, but she doesn't get her ketubah money. Or no, she can drink because he can separate from her till the child is 2 years old. Remember, once she has a child, then then she can, and then she's nursing. After that, he can marry her, and it could be okay. Um, if again, because there's a way to have her permitted to him, so then she can drink. Other women who do not drink, the Ilonit. If you remember, the Ilonit was a woman who doesn't reach puberty, not in terms of years, in terms of just chemically, she is infertile for chemical reasons. As Kena, someone who is old and therefore can't have children, or a woman who sterilized herself. These people do not drink, and they do not get their ketubah money. Again, why? Because he shouldn't have married them in the first place. Because if you remember, he has a mitzvah to have children. Therefore, if he marries someone who cannot have children, that is problematic. Rabbi Eliezer says, what are you talking about? He can just marry another woman again, right? There are multiple wives. He could just marry another woman and have kids from her, and then this woman can drink because she is permitted to him. All other women, either they drink or they don't get their ketubah. Remember, you do not have to drink if you don't want to. The woman can always say, "I will not, um, I will not do this. I will not drink the water, but and I will not get my ktuva money." Um, okay, the wife of a kohen does drink, and then she is permitted to her husband because we just proved that she did not have an affair. The wife of a sterile man drinks. Again, these cases are when she has to be able to have children, not necessarily him. If the man, right, the man can warn her against any man that is forbidden. And this seems to include the forbidden relationships. Actually, that's this week's parsha, Vayik Perek Yudchet, Perek 18. We have all the forbidden relationships. So, so he can marry, he can warn her against, right? I don't like that you're spending so much time with your father, grandfather, brother in a secluded place. This is all except for a minor. He does not count. The court can warn certain women, basically for her husband, right? For her husband, they can warn the woman. Um, so what's the case of that? If the husband is a deaf mute or insane or incarcerated, so then she can't be made. So they warn her. They would start like that. The court warns her. Then, um, then she cannot be made to drink because only her husband can make her drink. But she does lose her ketubah money, and she's forbidden to her husband. Um, okay. Rabbi Yossi says the husband can take her to drink when he um, leaves prison. So therefore, he can actually take her to get to drink. The Gemara explains that there's the verse that teaches that he can warn an arusa, right, a woman who he is engaged to, or um, the Shomeret Yavam, if it's somebody who's waiting to do Yibum, so he can warn her. And if she disobeys, she becomes forbidden to him, but she cannot be made or forced to drink the waters. Some say that only the Arusa and not the Nisua, the Shomeret Yavam. Some people say it's the opposite, right? If the right, maybe if the husband had bad relations with her first husband right at the same time, so then um, we are not sure what the case is. There's a machloket if the yavam had relations with the yavama before, right? Are they seen as married, or does he need to have intent when he does yibum? When he does it, that she's still a shomeret yavam. She's still waiting to do yibum. Um, okay. The Gemara now continues that on Daf 25, if a woman transgresses dat, so dat means religion. Here it means certain laws. We're not sure if it means dat Moshe or dat Yisrael. Right? We have two types of religious commitment. One is dat Moshe, that is what was given to Moshe. It's in the Chumash. It's in right different law books. But we also have something called Dat Yehudit. Dat Yehudit is based on Jewish practice at the time. Um, so it seems that if a woman transgresses dat, right, does she need to be warned and um, and practice? Um, um, does she need to be warned and then she loses her ketubah, right? And this would give her a chance to repent. Or does she need to still be a virgin, right? Maybe we learn from the fact that the Yivama and the Arusa, the Yivama who is forbidden, who's waiting to do Yibum, and the Arusa, right? She is betrothed, so we're concerned for them. They can be warned, and then they lose their ketuvah. And the Gemara says, no, they are warned, and therefore they are forbidden to him. But either way, she loses her ketuvah money. Or he warns her so he can make her drink after they get married, right? Again, if they're just engaged, he can warn her now. And then when they get married, he can make her drink. As we said, prohibited relationships do not drink, right? They don't bring their wife up to the temple. And they still, though, do not get their ktuva money. But he does warn her, right? And therefore, she does lose the ktuva. Or he warns her so that she is prohibited just like he is, or just like um, they were before, in the sense of now she's not allowed to go to the adulterer, right? She's already a surah, she's forbidden to him. We learn that warning makes her lose her ktuva from the court warnings when the judge, when the husband is deaf, right? So when the husband can't hear, the judge steps in instead of the husband. So now the Gemara asks, can husbands um, remain married to their wives who transgress dat Yehudit? Right? Can they, right, if they know that they transgressed, can they remain related to these women? Um, Okay, so is it that they right? It's voluntary, um, or do we say that it's an imperative? They must warn their wives. So it seems that the court steps in when the husband doesn't, right? Doesn't take this seriously, right? Again, maybe it shows that he needs a desire to step away, right? To he needs to divorce her, or no, they assume that he just objects and that's why he did what he did. Okay. The Gemara now asks on the bottom of 25, can a husband cancel his warning? If you remember in the beginning of the Masechet, we mentioned that the husband must warn his wife. So, right, this is called kinui. What happens if he says, oh, you know what, never mind, right? I take it back. I didn't mean it, right? So, can he cancel the warning? So the Gemara says, let's learn from our Mishnah. It says that we send two people with them lest he sleep with her, right? If he can cancel his warning, why do we need those people with them, right? So if he just cancels the warning, let him cancel the warning and be with his wife. So the Gemara says, no, they need to be scholars so that they can tell him all about the things he's about to do and to cancel the warning, right? And then he can be then he can be more present, and then he can be with her. A tradition says that he can cancel the warning, as just like parents can cancel the ben sorer umore. Ben sorer umore was when a child was rebellious, the rebellious child, and they bring him to court. Let's say at a certain point, the mother says, "I can't take it anymore. Enough." Right? So they can take back that. I guess tattletale, but they can take it back, and it does work. Um, okay. Second. Okay. Sorry. Now we have a machloket. If only before seclusion can he cancel the warning. Remember, we have a man who is very jealous. He warns his wife, "Don't go there with that man," and then. There are, let's say she does, and then there are witnesses that say, "I saw her going into the motel room with so and so." So the question is, when can he cancel the warning? I understand that he can cancel it before she secludes, right? Before she goes into that motel room, he can say, "You know what, forget it. I love her so much. I'm not jealous. It was just to scare her." Or, right, maybe we say, "No, no, no. We need to wait, right? Even later, can they take it back?" Um, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel argue if the husband dies before she went to drink the water, the question is what happens? Can she get a ketubah or not? So Beit Shammai says yes. Um, it's seen as if she already collected it, and therefore she and therefore um, she can get her ketubah. Um, and Beit Hillel say, no, she cannot do that. There's another machloket if barren women or old women can drink. But everyone agrees that the Ilonit doesn't drink, right? This Ilonit was never able to have children, and um, therefore she does not drink if this is the case. Daf 26, if he warned her when they were engaged, and then she secluded when they were married, she can drink the water, or she loses the ketuvah money. Right? Who else can drink? Right? Also, who can drink? A pregnant or nursing woman, if she was barren and she had children um, from another from another husband. So then they are permitted, and these are permitted marriages, so then that would be okay. The wife of a convert, of a ger, it's a machloket. If if he is with an Ilonit, a woman who did not hit puberty or didn't go through puberty, so that is a machloket. The next machloket is um, if she's innocent, right? Does she become pregnant right away? Um, and then, if that's the case, then wouldn't, right, all barren women, right, they're going to select for this issue, right? And I think I mentioned this last week, the story of Hannah, where she said, if you do not answer me, I'll put myself in this position and I'll be innocent, and then I will get a child, right? Therefore, she doesn't get pregnant. But if she's pregnant already, it will make her delivery much smoother, or it will give her a male child. I have a lot of boys, so I understand that, but that still seems a little, stark. Um, and other bonuses to this woman that are mentioned in the Gemara. If the Kohen's wife drank and survived, and then started um, wishing everyone, yeah, started wishing. Um, um, sorry, let's start again. If if the Kohen's wife drank from the water and then survived, and then started wasting away, but not in the usual way, so that it could be that she was uh, forced. Even so, she's still permitted to her husband. A woman who's married to a sterile man who became sterile by natural causes, so then she can drink, right? Again, as long as he can have relations, right? All of these things are based on the fact that it says that she's going to become pregnant. If she's going to become pregnant, it really needs to be a scenario where she could, in theory, become pregnant. And then it says that she can't drink the adulterer, meaning the man that she is suspected of sleeping with, is a minor, right? Again, it says ish, right? Ish means a man. But if he is sterile, she can drink. If the adulterer is an idolater, she can still drink, right? All of these men, if she sleeps with if they sleep with a female who is the daughter of a Kohen, she cannot eat truma anymore. The Gemara raises several sexual acts that aren't seen as bi'ah, right? Bi'ah is the sexual act, what we would call regular vaginal intercourse, and other acts, though intimate, if it's not exactly this, then she would not be a sotah, right? And again, it talks about does it make her a sotah or not, and it goes through different intimate acts. Daf 27, there's a machloket if one has no choice. Should a man marry a woman who is rumored to have had an illicit relation, or should he marry the daughter of that woman? Right? What's better? So the Gemara kind of goes back and forth. Again, the daughter has questionable lineage. The mother has questionable, I guess we could say, morals, or not. And the Gemara goes back and forth, right? The daughter didn't do anything wrong. She was just born, whereas the wife did. And therefore it is seen as problematic. The halacha is you marry the daughter and not the woman herself, because most of the mother's relations, very intimate acts, were with her husband, and therefore the child is probably kosher, and therefore marry the daughter. There's a machloket when a woman is more fertile. Is it the day before her period, or is it close to when she goes to the mikvah, which is when she begins ovulation? The verse says ish ish, right? A man twice, to include men who the Beit Din warned their wives, right? Again, if they were insane, if they were deaf mute, if they were incarcerated, the Beit Din cannot bring her to drink, right? We said they can warn her, but they do not bring her to drink. And the Gemara says, or there's another opinion that says that they can. And it's important to understand that the husband and the wife are linked. Just like if he is blind, he cannot make her drink. She can't drink if she is blind, right? So to a lame husband or a wife. And that concludes our fourth chapter. Let's move on in the middle of Daf 27 to the beginning of the fifth chapter. So the Mishnah tells us that the water also affects him. We're not sure who him is just yet. And he dies in the same way. I think we can assume that it is the adulterer. She becomes forbidden to her husband and to the adulterer. This is before she dies, obviously. And the Mishnah here says, on that day, etc., something happened. So what does that mean on that day? Right? Be'oto hayom, or hahu hayom, or bayom hahu. Right? On that day. What is the day in the Gemara? It refers to the day that they appointed Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah instead of Rabban Gamliel, because they were arguing, because Rabban Gamliel was arguing so much. They actually depose Rabban Gamliel, and they put Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah in his place. This is where we get the idea of Hare Ani Keben Shivim Shana, right? When we say in the Haggadah that he felt that he was like 70 years old, that was for this, right? Why did he have to get some gray hair? Because he was about to be the head of the Jewish community, and This is the day that we're talking about. On that day, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah opened all the doors, and they expounded on many things. So Rabbi Akiva taught three things. One, that the impurity of an earthenware vessel, a kli cheres, is how does it become impure? If something is suspended in its airspace, and it makes any food within, it makes food within impure. Um, this is talking about a sheretz. So let's say if a dead lizard was, put into the airspace of this clay jar, everything in it would become impure. Um, from here, we're going to get into a lengthy discussion about purity and impurity. So this dead sheretz, it's like a creepy crawly animal, is the source of the tum'ah, of the impurity. So it's an av, literally means father, but it's the source. Let's say it then touches. This is the next case. Let's say the sheret is in the airspace or touches the oven. So the oven becomes impure. That becomes a rishon. If you remember, with impurity, we transmit or transfer impurity from one thing to the other. Each time it's transferred, it's a little lower. So if the sheretz touch the oven becomes a rishon, because from av, from the top, it goes down to a rishon. Then the oven touched the bread, that becomes a sheni, a secondary impure food. And that could make a shlishi, a third degree impurity. Not only truma, but anything else. This is actually not the law. The law is that it stops after sheni, after a second. It doesn't go to the third. What are the other things that Rabbi Akiva taught? That the tchum, the area, that tchum, which is the area around a city, is biblical in nature. We actually say that it's rabbinic, but Rabbi Akiva said it was biblical. And in the city of the Levites, of the Leviim, you need to leave at least 1,000 amot, hand breadths, 1,000 amot for beautifying the city. And then you can measure another 1,000 amot from there, or 1,000 to beautify the city, and 2,000 to plant, right? It becomes farmland. And okay, the last thing that Rabbi Akiva taught on that day is from Az Yashir. Az Yashir, the song that was sung at the splitting of the sea. It says lemor, to say, and Rabbi Akiva says that it means that Moshe said it, and then they repeated it like Hallel. Or there's another opinion that it was together. Everyone said it together at the same time. Okay. Next, we're going to do Daf 28. The Gemara asks, right, as we said, it says the water affects him. So the Gemara says, who's him? Maybe it means the husband. The Gemara says, why would it be the husband? The husband didn't do anything, right? And if the husband did something, so then we said that the waters don't work, right? The waters don't work if he actually transgressed. Right? Not only does it not work on him, but it also doesn't work on her. Rather, as we said, it's actually testing the adulterer, and that is I think the clear understanding of the Mishnah. We said that the woman is prohibited to her husband and to the man she had an affair with. This is learned from the fact that it says v'nitmeu, and they will be impure, but not. Remember, we said that the word impurity in Masechet Sotah means had are forbidden because they had relations. Um, so Rabbi Akiva expands the fact that it says "vi," right, and he says that it's basically it says three times, but because it says the vav, it really becomes six times, right? Three things for the man and three things for the woman, as opposed to Rebbe. Rebbe says no, we don't see the vav as being extremely significant to extrapolate the law, and therefore it's only three things. These are all about the woman, and then he learns about the punishment for the man from another verse. Um, Again, as we said, it says v'nitme'ah, the same word, three times to say that she's prohibited to her husband. This is all till she drinks the water. Once she drinks the water, if she survives, obviously she can go back to her husband. She is forbidden to the adulterer, um, and she's forbidden to eat truma. Right? If he is a kohen, she is not allowed to eat truma up until she finishes this entire ordeal. If the adultery was bishogeg, right? Bishogeg means unintentional. She actually remains permitted to her husband. Let's say it was unwilling, right? Let's say she was raped. Also, she is still permitted to her husband. Whereas the impurity of a sheret, of a creepy crawly animal, there are 8 animals listed in the Torah. What is a sheret? It's not every bug or every like crawly thing. It's specific things. If you touch the sheret um, unintentionally, right, bisafek, it you become impure. So the Gemara says, no, that's only in the private domain, like the Sotah. So it's important to, this is an important concept in the law of purity and impurity, which are not so relevant to us today, but it is important to know. The fact that if we're unsure if a person touched something that was impure, if it happened in the public domain in Reshut Rabim, the person is tahor, pure. If it happened in the private domain, the person is tameh, is impure. So this actually is learned from the Sotah, meaning the Sotah, she was private, she secreted away with a man privately, and she became tme'ah, right? Again, not in the sense of purity and impurity, in the sense of being prohibited. Therefore, if we have a question about if someone touched something that was impure, if it happened in a private domain, we are stringent and we assume that that person is impure. However, the opposite would be the case that if it happened in the public domain, so then she would not be impure. Okay, I think we are going to stop here at the very bottom of Daf 28, and we are going to pick it up next week. We're going to learn from Daf 29. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and see you Be'ezrat Hashem next week at our regular time, Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Israel time. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom.